does it mean to be funny?
Well, everybody's funny. I mean, there's no one way to be funny or one definition of funny. I think that there's a difference between funny and comic, is one of the things that we talk about. In my first book, The Hidden Tools of Comedy, we talk about the fact that anytime anybody makes somebody laugh, they're funny. But comic is kind of an art form, and it's the art of telling the truth. And specifically, it's about telling the truth about human beings. So that when people are funny, if we're talking about in terms of writers, directors, actors, I think what they're doing is they're seeing what we see from a specific angle, from a unique angle. It's like somebody once said that fish don't see the water because it's all around them. And so comic fish, they're going around and they're saying, hey, it's all wet around here. Have you noticed that? You notice a thing about water, so that's, if there was a stand-up fish. So I think a comedian is somebody who is slightly off-center to where the majority are. But what he says isn't off-center, it's dead center. It totally makes sense in retrospect. So when a comedian makes a joke, at first the audience, he takes the audience where they don't know they're going to go, but when they get there, they go, oh, of course. So it's both surprising and inevitable. The punchline of a joke is surprising and inevitable. So if you ask me what's funny or who's funny, I think we all have the capacity to enjoy humor, to make jokes. I mean, we just had our Thanksgiving dinner, right? And we were around the table, and people were making jokes, and then away from the table, people were making jokes about the people around the table, so that we all have the capacity to enjoy humor, to create humor, but some of us have the capacity to see the world in a unique way and then share that vision in a way that is both surprising and yet inevitable.
What is the comedy perception test?
Okay. When I first started doing workshops in trying to talk to people about the difference between funny and comic, what I did was I created what I called the comedy perception test, and it was all variations on a man slipping on a banana, because a man slipping on a banana is kind of the ground zero of a comic joke. So it was just a man slipping on a banana, and man slipping on a banana after kicking a dog, and man in top hat slipping on a banana, and if I can remember all the ones, man slipping on a banana after losing his job, blind man slipping on a banana, blind man's dog slipping on a banana, and finally man slipping on a banana and dying. And these were the seven word pictures. And then I would ask the people in the workshop, choose which one you think is the funniest, the least funniest, the most comic, and the least comic. And somebody would invariably ask me, well, what's the difference between funny and comedy? And I would not answer them, but I would just say, listen, it's whatever you think. Maybe they're all equally funny, maybe they're all equally not funny. Just choose which one you think is the funniest, the least funniest, the most comic, the least comic. They could, the two of them could be the same. And so then we start with, well, how many people thought A was the funniest? How many people thought B was the funniest? And after the end of that, we'd total them up, and we'd say, you're all right, because funny is subjective. If you think something's funny, if you're laughing at something, to you it's funny. But how useful is that in terms of creating narrative, either as a director or as a writer or as an actor. Because if you're chasing funny, by definition, you're chasing a fraction, a subset of the audience. Because some people thought that man slipping on a banana peel was the funniest. Some people thought that man slipping on a banana peel and dying was the funniest. And those people, thought the other person was wrong. So if you're creating a script and you're trying to make it funny, by definition, you're excluding a portion of the audience. Because, here, let me see if I can show you this.
Oh, great.
Here. I have a niece. She's now a teenager, which is causing my brother and sister-in-law no amount of pain. But when she was a little kid, I would be able to shake my keys and make her laugh. I can make Karen laugh too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Look at the keys. Look at the keys. And so the question is, my niece is laughing, Karen's laughing, so is this comedy? Would you spend 6 months of your life developing this as a feature? You're laughing, so there's, the thought is that there's a difference between funny and comic. And comic, as I said before, is the art of telling the truth about human beings. The art of telling the truth about human beings. Because basically what we're doing when we're writing comedy is we're illuminating, exposing that which is both wonderful and ridiculous, glorious and absurd about what it's like to be here on this planet as us. And at this point, somebody will say, well, isn't that true about drama? And my response to that is usually, yeah, drama's great. Drama's great. Nobody's saying that drama isn't great, but drama helps us dream about what we could be. Would that I were as eloquent and as good looking and had as much hair as some of those people, in those dramatic films and those action films. So drama helps us dream about what we could be, but comedy helps us live with who we are. Comedy helps us live with who we are. And it's not incorrect to state that you can watch a dramatic film in which there's really not a lot of humor, not a lot of intentional humor. But you can't watch a comedy without moments of pain, loss, regret, failure, hurt. So for me, and I guess because I teach comedy and comedy writing, and I've spent my whole life doing that. I've written 2 books about that. I'm prejudiced, but to me, comedy is the art form that really gets at what it's like to be human, and at the same time, make you laugh. So it has that going for it too.
And speaking of one of your 2 books, you have, can we just see the cover there? Is
Okay.
You have the banana peel, which, how did that become synonymous with comedy?
Well, I think, I actually am not sure there's somebody probably out there in the world of the internet probably will tell me that, give me the exact time and date that somebody slipped on a banana peel. But I think it really was in the silent films when you had you had no sound, so it was all physical comedy. So you had somebody slipping on something, and that was an easy joke. And so when we were trying to figure out what would be a good cover for this,
It's a great cover.
there were all sorts of suggestions, and somebody said a gorilla playing baseball, and I thought, well, I'm not sure if a gorilla playing baseball is really defines what I'm talking about. So my brother, who's actually was in advertising, actually found this image for me, and he sent it to me. So I have my brother Michael to thank for the cover.
Thank you, Michael.
Which was, because it's this beautiful, lovely banana ready to be stepped on.
Right. And for someone to fall.
And for somebody to fall. And the thing is that some people think that there's the superiority theory of comedy, in which the theory is that we like to look down at people and we laugh at their misfortune. Mel Brooks once said that tragedy is if I get a paper cut. Comedy is if you fall down a sewer and die. And that's a funny joke, but I think that that's really not how it works. I think if you don't like somebody or you really look down on them, it's probably a television show or a movie that you if you're streaming it, you turn off because you're not engaged. My take on it is that you're identifying with them, that you know they're suffering the ignominy. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
That's a new one. Okay.
That we hope we can avoid, that we hope that no one will find out about, right? The time that we gave a big speech and our fly was open. So when the comic does that, when the comic actor does that, you know, we're not ho 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 that idiot. We're kind of going, oh my God, there I was, but you know, and or you know, thank God I wasn't there. And I think that you're identifying with characters, which is why when producers or executives tell a writer to make a character likable, they're actually making an error. Because it's not about making a character likable, it's making them identifiable, making you empathetic to that character, even if that character is a jerk, like Ricky Gervais in The Office, or like John Cleese in Fawlty Towers, Danny DeVito in Taxi. We don't, you know, those characters are not likable, but we kind of understand them. Maybe we've worked for somebody like them. Maybe your dad was somebody like them. And the power of comedy is that it's life affirming. Because ultimately, the comic is basically saying, you're okay. It's okay. So you slipped on a banana peel. So a pie hit you in the face. So you were humiliated. So you failed at that and you screwed that up. You'll live. You're still alive. You'll be okay. And if you're not living, then you have nothing else to worry about. So the comedy is ultimately the art of hope, because even though our characters slip on a banana peel, there's always the hope that they'll get up and something better will happen. And if you look at almost any comic film, that's what happens. Our characters start off as flawed individuals who are usually blind to their own flaws, and over the course of 2 hours, they go through a transformation. Not that everything's going to be better, not that they're going to change, not that they're going to be supermen or superwomen, but there's the hope at the end of it that the world is going to be better.